Both Harmony and Inspire host these webinars where thought leaders and educators share best teaching practices and tools to support social emotional learning. These presentations are the opinions and content of our guest speakers and may not necessarily be a direct representation of Harmony or Inspire. For best viewing of the webinar, it's recommended that you shut down your other browsers. Also, if you have questions for our speaker, please feel free to use your question box on your GoToWebinar control panel. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and you'll receive a copy of the slide deck and recording within the next week. If you are watching this webinar live, you will receive a copy of the certificate of completion from GoToWebinar within 48 hours. Today, you can also download a copy of the slide deck under the Handout tab on your GoToWebinar panel. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker. Christiana Frank has been working in education since 1999. Exposed to trauma in her adolescence, Mrs. Frank has made it her life work to help others who are experiencing trauma or lack of connection find their strengths and understandings. One of the 65 certified applied improvisation consultants in the world, her interactive approach to education helps teachers and students connect to themselves, each other, and the world at large. Christiana Frank shares Harmony Inspire resources with the schools she works with across the nation. Please join me in welcoming Christiana Frank.
Hello, hello, Amanda. Thank you so much and welcome everyone. I am very excited to be here and share with you some tools that I've been working on for about 22 years, but I would like to just let you know a little bit about myself so you know who is here on your screen today. I have a huge passion for what I do, and it comes from when I was 12 years old. My father passed away after a year of fighting for his life. And during that time, what I considered to be a picture perfect childhood, it changed drastically. It changed so drastically that it was impossible for me to bring in new information, to learn in school, straight from 7th grade all the way through my senior year. And there was a lot of lost learning, and that is where my passion comes from. After high school, I thought, well, you know, this isn't working out, learning book to brain or board to brain. And so I went on to New York City and thought, I'm going to be an actress. That's going to be what I'm going to do. And I did. I worked on Broadway and I became an actress and I took improv classes. And so a lot of people ask me when I'm teaching, you know, you must love the arts. You must really love the arts and performing on stage. And the answer is always no, sort of, not really. What I really liked was the process of trying on new skin, the process of feeling different emotions, and also what we now call the growth mindset, but the process of doing repetitive failures, learning to celebrate them and learning to learn from them. Just like the opening of this webinar where I got confused clicking the slides on time. And I'd like to announce that, well, I'm used to doing a lot of engagement in virtual platforms. This is, you are with me on my very first webinar where I cannot see people. So I'm growing some neurons right in front of you right now. Okay. So we'll get started, but that's a little bit about who I am. And I know we all have a story. And I want everyone to consider that our stories, they all matter. But before we get going, I would like to do a little bit of a check-in. So if you could do me a favor and just do a body scan, and I do this a lot when I work with teachers or in the classroom, just do a body scan, maybe close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, how are you doing? How are you feeling right now? And if you would be so kind, I invite you to share your answers in the question box. And then when some of those start popping up, I would love it if Amanda could help me by shouting out some of those answers.
Relaxed, tired, exhausted, a little stressed, anxious, calm, overwhelmed. I'm pretty overwhelmed. Doing better, tired, annoyed, peaceful. I'm hanging in there, excited, relieved I'm out of work, motivated, overwhelmed, joyful, distracted, tired, anxious, intrigued, skeptical, calm, COVID fatigue, tired, present in the moment, happy. I'm grateful.
Well, I'm going to keep moving from there. And, you know, I'm sure if you didn't get an opportunity to type it in the chat box, or you did, there's a lot of relatability. And even starting a class with having that relatability with your students is going to be a great way just to create a foundation. So a foundation for learning. So here's what we're going to do today is I am going to explain a little bit about social emotional learning and trauma-informed care and education. I am not going to get into the nuts and bolts of that because folks like Sanford, folks like Castle can speak to that a lot more clear than I can. But I am going to tell you about applied improvisation, what we're now calling AIEDU, and what that is, why it matters in education, and some of the misconceptions on all three of those things. Then going to share with you the benefits of utilizing applied improvisation in education and the how-to. And then because it's so good to have it modeled, I have some really cool kiddos that are going to model. We have them videoed a virtual environment as well as an in-person environment. But I want you at the front too, if you have any questions, start to write them down because we're going to do questions and answers at the end. And I always want to be able to speak to how to differentiate it, how to do it for different ages. You know, there's always going to be the question of, well, are my seniors going to do this? Or what about the apathetic 7th and 8th graders? How do I get them to buy in on these types of activities? And I am going to encourage you to not look at this as simple gameplay, even though it is, and science is speaking more to play and the neuro growth. I want you to look at this as brain-based neuro activities. So let's get started with you being involved with me. This is not an applied improv activity, though it can be embedded into applied improv, but this is just to set space for us to get started. And I am going to turn on my camera and I am going to invite everyone to just sit up nice and tall. We can't see you, so you can do whatever you need to do to get comfortable. I want you to feel your bottom on your chair. If you're standing, your feet on the floor. I want you to either keep your eyes open, which is a really important offer if you're working with children who are feeling unsafe in an environment. To close your eyes can be really tough. So I give them the option of keeping their eyes open, maybe closed, maybe the school door is open, or something called a soft eye, which I'll demonstrate, which is my eyes are open, but I'm not really focusing on anything, but I can see all around me. So for this exercise, I am going to close my eyes. I am going to ask that you watch my breathing twice, and then you match my breathing, and then we are going to sigh out together. If your students, if you're seeing any of these activities and you're going, hold up, my kiddos are going to have too much trouble, they're going to make fun of the sound, I invite you to think of different ways to breathe out, and I will demonstrate those in between breaths. So with my eyes closed, I'm going to breathe in through my nose, hold it. I'm going to pinch my throat and breathe out in my control. I invite you to join me. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out. Another example is breathe in through your nose. Hold it. Breathe out with a sigh. Keep breathing how it feels right for you. Consider how it might feel right for your students, whether it's a sigh, a sound, silence, a hiss, or the pinching of the throat. Keep breathing in. Release. I want you to feel your feet flat on the floor, your ankles, breathing the warm white light into your shins and your calves, relaxing your knees, the backs of your knees. Breathe in, release. I invite you to feel the tops of your legs, your hamstrings, your hips, where your bottom touches the chair, the back of your spine, your stomach. I want you to feel the heat and the warmth circling around your spine, up the back to your neck. Breathe in. Release. Feel the warmth and the energy of the back of your head, swirling around your eye sockets and your sinuses. Let your fingers curl, your mouth fall open. Breathe in. Hold it. Release. Keep breathing and releasing. Start to wiggle your fingers. Maybe roll out your shoulders. Open your eyes. You can stretch. And as you're stretching, I invite you to think about 5-5-5 breathing, 4-7-8 breathing, box breathing, square breathing. All of these breathing techniques that, I'm going to turn off my camera now, all of these breathing techniques that can be done in 1 to 2 minutes. I went a little quick with this one for time's sake, but I'd ask now, did you have a difference in how you felt? Were you able to focus on the heat coming through your body and build that neuro understanding is what's happening and what will happen with your students? But if you could please rather type your answer in the question box. If you would like to type, how you felt first before the breathing, and then a little backslash and how you feel next, or how you feel now rather, that would be great.
More relaxed. I felt connected with my breathing.
Nice.
I feel much better.
Okay, so I've got
delicious,
sorry, Amanda.
Stronger, focused, relaxed, more open. My body feels less agitated.
Yeah, mine too.
I felt overwhelmed at first, but now I feel great. Feeling good, yeah. It reminded me of doing yoga. Full release of the tension. Surprisingly, yes, great activity, aware of myself. First I was tired, relaxed, now my brain is clear.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna move through on that, and I'm gonna just, before we do this poll, and I've got so much I wanna share with you, but I wanna say I thank you, and it's not because you had the change, but when I first started doing that, it's tough. Like, it's tough to kind of slow that voice down, because I'm a very engaging teacher, but I really recommend, I'm sure all of us are engaging teachers, and we wanna keep that energy up, but to keep our kids and our teens being able to have that direct focus and build that neural pathway, before, oh, I'm going to let you figure this out in our poll. So let me disappear again. And I am going to ask this question is, when would be the ideal time? I was going to just give you the answer, my goodness, of the school day. And my answers might be right for me, but for you, what is the ideal time of the school day to implement focused breath and or mindful movement? If we could get that poll up.
Yeah, go ahead and enter right on your screen. What would be the ideal time of a school day to implement focused breathing or mindful movement? First thing in the morning, after recess, after lunch or recess, in between class transitions, or before or after high stakes testing. And you can enter right on the screen, or you can type in the chat box.
Oh, and I can see it too. So I'm really, yep, I'm seeing a lot of first thing in the mornings. That's what I usually like to do with, have teachers do this with their kids. It seems to be a great focus. Let me see, after lunch or recess is coming in.
A few more are voting. We'll continue to collect responses for about another minute here.
And everybody is engaging in my very first poll. Thank you for being with me.
Okay, final few seconds here. I hear several saying all options would be great. All right,
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and close the poll. And you can see the results here on your screen. First thing in the morning, 39%. After lunch or recess, 21%. In between class transitions, 27%. Before or after high stakes testing, 9%. Small group counseling, 4%. And then we had a variety of responses in the chat box talking about throughout the day.
I like it. I like it. And the before after high stakes testing has been something I've been implementing more in the districts I'm working at, and we've shown some really great outcomes. Okay, so like I said in the beginning, I'm not going to go through all of the social emotional. I mean, we're going to look at it. We're going to be reminded of it, but there are people in this world that can speak to this so much clearer, quicker, and more concise than me. But is having the social emotional learning platform of just remembering that it's self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. I'm going to stop myself right there. If at any time I start speaking too quickly, I ask that you do put that in the chat box, because I have a feeling we have people that are bilingual, and I can get pretty excited about what I do. So please do let me know. But this is the most recent diagram from Castle, and it does include our communities, families and caregivers, schools and classrooms, which we all, I think we can agree that our education needs to take us outside of the school walls. What is the misconceptions about social emotional learning? It's all about feelings. And I hear that a lot. I'm not sure if you're hearing that a lot, or maybe that's even your understanding. It's only for kids with behavior issues, takes away from academics. And again, number 3, my favorite number, and also one of my favorite line items on this is I hear that a lot. I don't have time. We're behind. We're doing math. We have our testing. However, if I bring you back even to my personal story, if I don't, or they don't, or we don't feel safe, and that we have built a relationship in this idea of our classroom, then there's no place to learn, meaning it's almost impossible. And if you know about executive functions or metacognition and how that brain and that prefrontal cortex is working, it's almost impossible to take in new information when you have all this trauma and troubles and different things popping up in your brain. Kids need to toughen up. Learn the skills, pull up your socks like I did with it when I was a kid. Maybe it worked for some of us, but I'm going to ask you, did that work for you? And then again, it can be measured quantitatively. Moving on to trauma-informed care and education. Now that first bullet point, so first, trauma-informed care it's a sensitive to trauma, that you have these tools to provide the safe and stable understanding. The first bullet point is not SAMHSA. The first bullet point right here and I forgot to put that it's from my brain, but it's the moment-to-moment interactions. So when I said earlier, I can show you the castle, I'm going to show you the trauma, I'm going to show you how applied improvisation works with these. It's a seamless connection. My biggest thing is, what are we doing in those moment-to-moment interactions? We're going to talk about nonverbal body language, tonality, intention, eye contact. And I'm going to remember to say all those things. Okay, so misconceptions about trauma-informed care. Now, I do know a lot of educators know what the ACE score is. An ACE score is a tally of adverse childhood experiences. So some misconceptions are that educators need to know this score, or they need to know the specific traumatic experience. You do not need to know exactly what has happened to the human. Of course, any kind of insight that you have will help support it. But if said student took an ACE score last week, they're a different person today standing in front of you. Different things have happened between last week and this moment. So manning our educators with tools that they can use in the moment, where you don't need to have books or papers or pencils. You can turn in a hallway and have these tools available to you. Trauma-informed, oh, number 3, I like my number 3s. It's about fixing our kids. Our kids are not broken. They're not broken. And I'll tell you, and I know a lot of you can agree, sometimes this student who has this inability to maybe calm down, that becomes their superpower. When it's molded right and they learn when to be big and when to be small, it becomes their superpower. My life, people said, calm down, calm down. Now people hire me for my energy. I just needed to know how to use it. Number 4, don't give consequences. Oh gosh, give consequences, appropriate consequences. Kids in trauma, and the world is saying, since the pandemic, here we are, everybody's had trauma. Kids in trauma know how to take advantage. The consequences need to be in line. They need to be understood, and the expectations need to be clear. Number 5, we're teachers, not therapists. I guess my statement to that would be is, I could say, I'm your friend, I'm not your therapist, and that doesn't seem to come out right in my brain. Are we going to be there to listen to what's really going on with this other human and meet them where they are with that strength-based teaching? Okay, so now we're in my real arena. So I am here to prove to you that this is not silly jokes. This is not stand-up comedy. This is not for extroverts. Is it gameplay? Yes, in a scientific, neuro-based way. So applied improvisation. Now, again, in my opening, I said, I thought I made this up in 1999. And then a few years ago, 5 years ago, I met a therapist online. She was doing some things and her wording was sounding like my wording. And so I reached out to her, and she was in New York City, and she told me about this organization called the Applied Improvisation Network. So I was able to merge with a lot of other people who thought they made this up. And then also learn more about a woman named Viola Spolin, who started doing this in the 1930s. So applied improvisation is taking the methods of what people think of, whose line is it anyway, or comedy improvisation, and infusing it into mental health, corporations, education, and pretty much, now if you, I'm not sure, some people don't remember who this person is I feel like I have to see everyone. So what people don't know who this person is, Alan Alda. Alan Alda created the Center for Science up in upstate New York, using what is called applied improvisation for scientists. They come from all over the world to hone in on their verbal, their nonverbal body language, and be able to think quicker on their feet. So let me see real quick on this. So Let's just move into the misconceptions, because I really want to make sure that you leave with these tools. And let me pause for 1 second. Thanks for bearing with me as I play with technology for a second. I'm sure you all can imagine, you can all relate with your Google Classrooms and Zoom. So misconceptions about applied improvisation. You need to be funny. It's just for extroverts. It's for actors in acting workshops. Improv training is comedy training. Improvisation is for when it goes wrong, and it is just for team building. And then I can go on and on about the misconceptions of improvisation. Doing this for 22 years, I've been trying to get folks to buy into it, because at the end of the day, this human, my story, is when I found out that there was an actual structure to practicing and failing and celebrating failure and being in the moment. It saved my life. And I was, before the pandemic, I think one of my kids' company was working with 1,500 students a week. And we talked to them and we assessed them. And so many students have circled back around during this challenging time we're having, saying, I am using these skills. I am using these skills to connect with people, whether it's eye contact, the yes and theory, which I'm going to tell you about, whether it's making my friends look good, and now we're talking about bullying or anti-bullying. It is every human behavior can be improved, I'm going to say, by applied improvisation when it's used correctly. And that is kind of a broken quote from Alan Alda. I think I just took one of his quotes. Okay, so so I can see, this is some benefits of applied improvisation. Now, every time I do a PowerPoint, I am getting better, and I could have consolidated this a little bit easier for you. What applied improvisation in education does, and a dear friend of mine, Dr. Jen Morrison, has said, she said, it opens courageous conversations. It allows the person to have the skills and the practice in a low stakes environment with low stakes experimentation to see what works and what does not work for them. So yes, applied improvisation can hit all of these different platforms. It can acknowledge and support diversity. It builds that classroom community, which is going to be huge for a trauma responsive classroom, which is going to say, okay, whether we are talking about kindergartners and we're talking about happy penguins and what do they look like, or we're talking to seniors and we're asking seniors what just happened in that disagreement and how to get over that conflict resolution. It is building those skills in low stakes experimentation. So when it's a high stakes, when we are actually in those conversations that matter, or we are taking that test, we have built those neural pathways, and so it's available. One of the biggest things I like to say, and I hope I'm not making anyone dizzy with my face going on and off, I should probably just keep it. One of the things I'd like to say is, we all know that if I asked any of you out there, do you go to the gym once? And I ask my students this too. Do we go to the gym once? And people say, oh, no, you don't go to the gym once and you're done. So there's kind of a giggle, and society knows that. If we're gonna keep our bodies healthy and strong, you don't go to the gym once. You go, you practice, you build those muscles. So for those of you who aren't, maybe into the neuroscience, I kind of became a neuroscience nerd the last 3 years, it's the same thing with our brain, right? You don't just do one thing once and then you have to practice and build that neural pathway and make it a super highway. There I am, make it a super highway and get that myelin sheath around it. And there's a lot of other things going on, dendrites and synapses, and here we go. And we're building a healthy brain, but we need to practice. So yes, for many students, practice book to brain, board to brain, it's going to really work for them. But there's a huge amount of us where it's not going to work that easy. It's going to work with actually communicating and practicing the communication, actually doing it, speaking it, sharing it, and feeling it, feeling the mind-body connection and having that holistic connection with your words and then with your content. Technology stuff. Okay. All right. So let me move this. Okay. So creates a trauma responsive, helps develop 21st century skills. It's simple. I'm going to show you in the next 30 minutes how to embed it. Actually, you're not going to see how to embed it into core content, but I invite you to watch it when you see these examples and really strategize how you can use this for retention activities. And then I am here to help you at any time. I live and breathe this. This is why I wake up in the morning, so you can reach out to me at any time. Fosters creativity, and then of course, deepens learning. Okay, so this is a quote I have put together, and I have need to share this with people from all over the place because my mind has been filled with so many amazing educators who have helped me learn how to put this into core content, learn how to match this with multi-layered or multi-tiered systems of support, and how to align it with social emotional learning and 21st century skill sets. So it's my brain and it's all your brains and it's all the students that have told me what's working and what's not working. But applied improvisation and social emotional learning. So as I mentioned before, it's a hands-on approach to helping educators learn and practice to increase social emotional competencies in themselves and their students. So these brain-based activities are offering low-stakes experimentation to take that emotional and creative risk through gameplay. And the neat thing about it is, in this method, you celebrate failure. So here we have the growth mindset coming to us too. Let me move on to the next one. I wanted just to show how it aligns with trauma-informed care and education. So again, it's this low-stakes experimentation, and it gives the whole body-brain connection of thinking, speaking, moving, and inhabiting the body. I invite you to think about that time. Mine was before this webinar. And even though I have thousands of hours training people on the computer, never have I looked into this little black circle I'm looking at and not seen at least one eyeball looking back. So mine was before this webinar. I kept going, oh, I felt my heart going a little different. I did some of my 4-7-8 breathing. So if you ever find yourself where you need to calm down, I invite you to jot down 4-7-8 breathing. This really will help you chill out, and at least do it 3 times. If you're somebody who is a little bit more relaxed, then I invite you to write down 5-5-5. That might get you going up, or box breathing is what it's called. Square breathing. There's so many different breathing techniques. I'm not going to get into the breath as much because we're here about applied improv for education, but it is everything for keeping us focused and for helping information stay in our brains. But I'm sure there's better experts out there that I need to learn from on the breath at this point. But I know it is helping me, and it's helping a lot of students and educators. So for trauma-informed care, you get this low-stakes experimentation. But what it's really doing is it's giving you a very usable tool to meet your students, see how they're doing through activities that are just fun and funny. They're just fun and funny. And I'll teach my educators, listen, start what I call a low stakes gameplay. And a low stakes gameplay, and I'll explain that when we get to that video, but a low stakes gameplay is not going to be core content retention. Low stakes gameplay or activity play is going to be more colors and numbers and things like that for elementary school. Low stakes for middle school is going to be maybe what did we do on the weekend, or how was the holiday? Low stakes for high school is going to be what do you want to be when you grow up, or where do you want to go to school? But nothing that is based in actual content that you are being tested on, and nothing that's actually bringing up the emotions or maybe having them demonstrate how they socially feel. Because in the beginning, in a low stakes environment, whether in person or virtually, depending on your humans that you're working with, I might be standing in front of the teacher or the class with a mask on and just having to process the fact that everyone's looking at me, or just needing to process the fact that you're asking me to give somebody eye contact across the room. And in a virtual environment, I know many of the teachers I'm working with, they have kids that don't show up on the screen. They might be embarrassed of what's behind them. Whatever the situation is, please know that I've developed these so it can be done with black boxes on the screen, a hybrid as well as in person. Okay, rules of improv, be present. Okay, I'm gonna let you attach those because I need to keep going. Be present. That's mindfulness, right? I'll let you attach those. Is support those around you. You are always making the people around you look good. Have a yes and mindset. Please jot down yes and. Please jot down that yes and. A yes and mindset means I listen to you without judgment and your stuff matters. And here's my idea. When I'm explaining it to K through 12 kids, I might use an example of a phone that was plugged into a wall, and then somebody said, hey, we're gonna have a cell phone. And then a lot of people said, that's not a good idea, rejection, rejection, rejection. But he kept going. And then somebody said, yes, and we're gonna add maps. Yes, and we're gonna add. So a yes and mindset meets and builds. In a trauma situation or in an emotional situation, I have a story that I could use about, well, let's use this story. I've got a story where I was working with a young lady, and it was a body image issues. And she had drank a little bit of water, and her belly had changed a little bit. And she started to escalate and get very, very upset and very confused. And folks around her, trying to do the absolute best they can, said, you're fine, you're fine, you're okay. And I could see her escalating and escalating and escalating. And she was using words, bad words, how she felt about herself, what she looked like. And she kept escalating every time somebody got calmer and said, you're okay. Escalating. So she finally gets up to the stairs to my office, and she is over the top. And she comes and she screams out, I'm not going to scream this word out, but she just screamed out, I am so, And I said, yes, I hear you. And let's go get a mirror and let's have that conversation. So a yes and mindset, whether you are doing content retention and you have a student going, today in school we learned to conjugate sentences in Spanish, and the next person says, yes, and we learned, and the next person says, yes, and we learned. Or you're a teacher or an educator working with a student who is saying, I can't, and you're saying you can't do it yet, but you want to hear them and say, yes, I hear you. Hey, teacher, I have a green horn on my forehead. Yes, I hear you, and let's talk about it. The yes and conversation is so important to anything, and you grow that neural pathway by doing it over and over again in a low stakes environment. I encourage you to Google it, Of course, there's wrong stuff everywhere, but as long as you keep an open mind to yes means I accept, and here is my idea that adds in. Organizations like, organizations all around the world right now are using the yes and mindset and using applied improvisation activities for hiring. Okay, so, embrace and celebrate failure. It's really big. You're not going to see a model of that, but if you join me in the power of engagement or you join me in one of my other sessions, we're going to model how to celebrate failure where you make a mistake, and it's a celebration. And it's an understanding that you are, you're growing that neural pathway. And of course, depending on the age, having explained, if I'm working with littles, it might be this is your brain, this is how we grow a neural pathway. With older kids, we might get into the dendrites or whatnot and show videos. But I think thinking about thinking and knowing what's going on while I'm becoming and trying on new skin, new emotions, or how I want to be is really where the learning takes place. And then reflective debrief, knowing what you did, why it matters, where it applies, then what, then where, then how, and having the student or even the educator or whoever speak to that information and then understand that repetition, just like building the muscle in your arms, building the muscle in your brain is equally as important. Okay, teaching it. The steps of the activity are called activity choreography. I'm trying to keep a sort of an integrity, so to speak, about this method. You can join me on different platforms where we have teachers using this method all over the world. And just reach out and let me know. I would love to have you on any of my platforms. And we post games and strategies and ideas. And once you get a hold of it, you can bring in new ideas with easily. I'll just leave it at that, easily. So the steps of the activity are called activity choreography, the mechanics of the game, very teachable moment for executive functions. One of the biggest things I want to say is be aware of your body language. Like right now, I know I'm gonna do this because I'm talking so much, but be aware of your body language and help the student be aware of their body language, because it doesn't always matter what we do in life, it's how we do it. And I could stand in front of you right now and I could do a whole webinar and tell you that this was gonna be the most exciting webinar you're ever gonna have. But be that model, and then know in a trauma supportive environment or in any environment, trauma or no trauma, in any environment, if you are standing up against a wall on your cell phone and you are laughing, or you and two teachers are laughing and said student walks by, especially if they've received any type of trauma, it's all about them. It doesn't matter if it is or if it isn't. You are making fun of them and learning is done. So being aware to have the open, neutral body language with your hands by their sides, having that smile on your face. I mean, it doesn't always have to be like this, and you don't have to have my energy. Just being are your arms crossed? I don't know if you can see that, but if your arms crossed, do I have a thinking face that just looks like I'm so upset? So being aware of what you look like, because if you think about students who have been in trauma, some of their superpowers are being able to identify that nonverbal body language for safety. So that's what they see first, and then the tone. Before they even hear what you're telling them, it is going to be tone and body language. Supporting kids and teens with adverse childhood experiences. Those are your ACEs kids. These is everybody. I don't mean to talk in such layman's terms. I do mean to speak in layman's terms. But I mean, I don't mean to bush everybody together. But is my special needs, my gifted and talented kids, my twice exceptional kids. And I'm sorry I don't have time to identify all those definitions, but you could easily look up or reach out to me and I'd be happy to explain gifted and talented, twice exceptional, special needs, on spectrum, whatever anybody's calling regular ed. Everybody likes clear routines, or clear expectations and routines. Everybody feels a little better, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many that I work with, that you have this open body language where you look welcome and that folks want to approach you. So important for our kiddos in trauma, and so important for our kids and our teens learning social skills, to see the modeling of behavior. And I say good and bad a lot, and I'm not good at it yet. The growth mindset, thank you, Carol Dweck, but they do say you should stay away from saying the words good and bad if possible, being that at the home, it tends to be more of a repetitive thing parents say. Good boy, good girl, bad boy, bad girl. I'm still getting better at this. I let my students know. I said, hey, I'm trying to get this out of my vocabulary. You know, and I create a structure so they're not going, oh, you did it again, and we're losing that lesson time. But I create a structure where we're all learning together and help build that relationship. Definitely catch anybody doing stuff good when you can. And everybody, you're so busy teaching all that core content, but maybe set a clock or a timer or something, a Post-it note that reminds you to, wait, let me find somebody doing something good. And then once they get that credit for doing something good, who else is going to want to get that credit? The rest of the class. And then most of you are going to know that story. Plan for a break or reset, calming quarter, safe walkabout, but check in with them. Because if you're just letting them go do stuff, please remember, kids in trauma, all kids, they're just, I did it. I mean, back then I knew how to take advantage of my teachers. So have that structure. But I loved it when I got caught and got put into a place where I thought I was being cared about. That's where I learned. All right. Reflective debriefing. I'm going to go through this quick, which is just, you know, what did you observe? What did you value? How did you apply? Where apply? What does it matter? What next? And then what? Teachers, you know how to do these things. I mean, you're doing this on your core content. But again, this is a great, I like my quick go-to, and sometimes I just get the first three, which is what did you observe? What did you value? Excuse me, what did you value? And how will you apply? Okay, activity one. Activity one is a game I feel. I encourage any of you to try using this just immediately in a virtual environment or in a classroom, in person, masked. I'm going to show you an example. I explain to the students. Hope I'm not going too fast. I explain to the students. I am going to say how I feel, and then I'm going to pass it through the screen to someone else, or I'm going to intentionally give it to someone else so I get the body moving. When you get that, say how you feel, what you do when you feel that way. And I might even have the kids in a group say, everybody raise your hand if you feel that way too, or you do that thing. Now, I want to let you know, I usually will start with an emotions chart, so we're not all saying fine, 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 or happy, sad. And I also give them the opportunity to say, sometimes I feel. So they do not have to be that radically present with how they feel in that moment. Okay, so I'm going to share, I'm going to talk myself through this. Let me get up here. I am going to share. This is going to be I feel in a masked environment. My name is Miss Chris, and I feel focused, and I pass to Sierra.
Thank you, Miss Chris. Sometimes when I feel focused, I can get my work done easier. Sometimes I feel anxious. I'm going to pass to Pete.
Thank you. When I feel anxious, I take a deep breath and think about my situation rationally. I sometimes
Oh, I'm going to praise you right there. Who else takes a deep breath when they feel anxious? Has anyone ever used that breath work?
Okay, so teachable moments all the way through. You can stop, you can start, you can ask, you can give them 4 emotions to choose from. In a virtual environment, it might look like this. Today I feel flexible, and I'm passing to Ruby.
Thank you. When I feel flexible, I like to make plans with people and just do whatever I can. And lately, I've been feeling pretty insecure, but that's all right. I passed Mr. Colby.
Oh, thank you. When I feel insecure, I like to talk to the people that make me feel really good.
Hold on.
I think.
Wait, does anybody wait? So in this, I am about to start doing a teachable moment, but I'm going to bring us back. So in that activity, I feel there are so many opportunities. And if you want as well, with the passing through the camera and the pulling through in a virtual, or the passing, I have those kids sitting, but they can also be standing in a neutral position to practice just standing with their arms by their side, okay, and out of their pockets. And that's going to be a great lesson as well, keeping them in neutral position. You can pass core content retention. You can start by passing colors, numbers, eye contact as the lower stakes experimentation, and then move into feelings. I feel, sometimes I feel. We really like doing the passing through the screen. The students seem to, at all ages, think that that's it's just more interactive. I'm going to go away for one more moment. This next activity is called Complement Circle. The next activity is, let me get through this, Complement Circle. I absolutely love this activity. In this atmosphere, we use this at the end of a class typically, but what it is it's saying, hey, listen, what I like about me is this and this and this. What I like about you is, I encourage that they can start with, what I like about me is my shirt. I think it's great. What I like about you are your shoes. And maybe we move up to, what I like about me is, I almost finished my first webinar and I made it. And what I like about you is you stayed with me the whole time and had some really insightful comments. And kept up with this pacing. So I'd like to just show you this in the examples. So I'm going to go ahead and this is the in-person.
One thing I like about myself is that I have found out I am able to do eye expressions really easily for me. And and one thing I like about Ruby is that she's always been part of Tuesday's class and she's always there when nobody else is.
Thank you. One thing I really like about myself is I've been very relaxed recently, mostly because we're on break from school. But I've just
I'm going to then go ahead and show you the environment, the complement circle virtually.
One thing that I like about myself is that I am creative.
Yeah.
One thing that I like about Mr. Colby is that he always has the funniest things in mind.
Thank you. Thank you. One thing that I definitely really like about myself is that I am very flexible and adaptable, and it's very useful. And Ruby, I love your improvisational and comedic instincts. You always have something really funny in your back pocket.
Thank you. One thing I like about myself is my ability.
And so here, let me get back to this screen. There we go. So in that activity, in complement circle, it is Very easy to differentiate for different ages. I keep my littles crisscross at the floor. Sometimes we stay at the desks. We have that 6 feet between us. We're working with our masks. I'm talking about eye contact. As we get older, I have them in the neutral position. We work on not crossing our arms, standing nice and tall and proud. What do we want to be on our face, even if it is behind our mask? Where are our eyes looking? Perhaps we're talking about enunciation or projection while we go through it. Maybe we're just passing colors, or maybe we are passing compliments. But I want you to be very ready for the student that is going to say, one thing I like about myself is, and then you will have a very long pause and possibly a lot of tears. So do be ready for that. Play these activities with your students. You can even say, hey, I saw this really high energy girl on this webinar for Sanford, and I'm gonna try to do this with you. Do it, learn with them. Change the game if you would like. Just know that there's no no's. There's no wrong answers in applied improvisation. It is meeting and it is building. And these will be, I think, in the video. So now I need to hear from you, or I would like to hear from you, is what time during the school day would be the most impactful to implement? And actually, let's just jot down our answers due to time, but I want you to think about when would be the best time to implement. Now, if we know repetition is important, then what I really like to ask educators to do is a mindful breath in the moment, or a focused breath in the beginning of the school day before high stakes testing, maybe after recess. You can do compliment circle or I feel in 2 to 3 minutes, depending on your class size. Maybe you don't let everyone get a turn, and maybe you are just focusing on neutral position. But 3 times a day for at least 3 minutes to build that community in the classroom, and laugh. Come up with some weird topics in the beginning where you're just laughing, like, what did we eat in the lunchroom today? Or what do you think that looked like? And if all you do is get 2 minutes of laughter with your kids while they're standing in neutral position or while they're working on eye contact, I feel like I did a lot of work here today, because right there you are juggling with that parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system. You are bringing oxygen into the brain. You are bringing joy and energy into your classroom, which is going to open up the door for that relationship building and the ability to bring in new information.
Christiana, we're getting a lot of responses in the question box.
Yes.
At the end of the day, after lunch, end of the day, during morning meeting or closing circle. So a lot of responses. We just have a few minutes left, so we will have to go to our wrap up here. But if you just want to head on to your question slide.
Okay, my question slide. I just really, last thing, oh gosh, I'm going against Amanda, but Meetup, Buddy Up, these are great. If you're already working in Meetup, Buddy Up, please consider putting these activities. You can play them with 2 people too. This will be on the video, so you can read it slower, but it's just talking about being positive, having emotions. I would like you to maybe jot down or write in how you feel now. Do you have more energy? Are you feeling excited? But I have to keep going because I talked quite a bit. And this is it. I'm wrapping up. So keep typing in how you feel right now. I would like you to make that an idea for yourself. And I always tell students, if they don't feel like sharing how they feel, play the game anyway, or play the activity anyway, but do be honest with yourself. I am available for any of you, all of you, at any time. Here is my information. I'm here to help you. If anything in this video went too quickly, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to explain. And
thank you so much, Christiana. We're getting a lot of wonderful feedback in the question box. Everyone's excited to implement these new ideas. We just appreciate your time. We thank everyone for being here today. We do invite you to our Power Engagement conference next week, where Ms. Frank and 20 other thought leaders and inspirational teachers will be sharing best practices. with SEL, Harmony, and Inspire during our virtual summit. You can register today at no cost on the Harmony portal. We look forward to you joining us at our next webinar on March 24th.
Can I say thank you?
Yes, in honor of International SEL Day, we will have an expert panel on the importance of SEL. And now more than ever, we know SEL is so important, so you can register on our website today. Thank you again, Christiana, for sharing your expertise today. Once this webinar comes to a close, a survey will launch on your screen. It's very short, and we greatly appreciate your feedback. We do read your feedback and take your responses seriously. To this day, your responses have helped us build more successful webinars. Thank you all for joining us today, and stay safe, everyone.